Hi, Bonner here. Okay, today I just want to talk about chords. How many chords are there? Lots of people ask me, how many chords are there? And so I'm going to tell you. There's basically 5 chord shapes. Okay, there's 7 different notes in the major scale, and that's what we define as sort of being our distinct, framework or alphabet in music. But some of those chord shapes are overlap. The E and the F use the same shape. The A and the B use the same shape. So there's really only 5 unique chord shapes, okay? And there are 3 sounds for chords. There's a Joe Pass instructional video. Joe is a very famous jazz guitar player, a wonderful jazz guitar player. And in one of his instructional videos, Joe says, as far as chords go, I don't really like to get too complicated. You have your major chord, your minor chord, and your 7th chord. And I have to agree with Joe. In terms of really understanding what's fundamentally happening with chords, there are 3 different chord sounds. Okay, the major sound, kind of a happy sound. The minor sound, kind of a sad sound. And the 7th chord, which is kind of a blues sound. And those are the 3 fundamental families of sounds. People always say, what about diminished chords? I consider diminished chords to be a subset of the dominant family of chords. So let's just learn the families and those 5 shapes. If we have 5 shapes and we have 3 different flavors or tones in each shape, we only have 15 chord shapes that we need to learn to master the basics. Okay, so let's start with the C chord. There's the C major chord that you've all seen before, I'm sure. If I want a C minor, all I do is I take the 3rd, which is this note here, the E, that's the central note of the chord, and I move it down 1 fret. So then I play the C, but with that 1 note down here, and I'm going to get a minor chord. And you can hear that sad kind of sound to the chord. And if I want a 7 chord, all I do is I take the G string, I'm going to put my pinky down on the G string, and that's going to give me this note here as a flat 7th note. And here's the sound it's going to give you. The blues. Okay, I can do the same thing with the A chord shape. Here's the A major. In this case, the 3rd note of the A major chord is here on the B string. If I take that down by 1 fret, there's the A minor. In the case of the A chord, if I go back to the major, the note on the G string, if I take my finger off that, now I'm going to add the note G to my chord, and the G is the flat 7th note of the A chord. There's the bluesy sound. Okay, the G chord is here. If I take the middle finger note and reduce it by 1 fret, I'm lowering, that's the 3rd again. And here you go, there's a G minor. Sound. And here's a cowboy grip of a G7 chord. Again, that kind of blues sound. Although you do hear this chord used quite a bit in folk and country music. And turnarounds mostly. And then the E chord, the E major, the Johnny Cash chord. And then if we take the pointer finger off, that's the 3rd in the E chord. Now that's going to be, instead of a G sharp, it's going to be a G, and we're going to have the E minor. You can hear that nice sad tone, that mournful tone. And the E7, we put the pointer back on, but now we take the ring finger off, and we're going to have this note on the D string, which was an E, a duplicate of the root, is now going to be playing the D note, which becomes the flat 7th of this chord. Sound. And then the last chord shape, okay, we did C, A, G, E, which spells cage. We'll come back and do a segment on caged, and this is the D chord. So you have your D major. If I move the note on the E string down by 1 fret, now I have this shape. Clearly a minor chord, a D minor chord. And if I take this central note here, the duplicate D, the high D note, and I take it down by 2 frets and play my D like this, there's my D7th for that blues sound. So there you have 5 chord shapes, 3 different sounds for each shape. You should get familiar with those. If you do, you can play just about anything. Oh, and I'll give you a little bonus section, substitutions. When you see, if you don't know a bunch of other chords, like a minor 9th or a minor 6 or a minor 7, just play the minor chord. So if you're learning a new song and it says play a C minor 6 and you don't know the minor 6, well, you can look it up and learn it. But if you just want to play the song, just play the minor chord. Perfectly good substitution as you're just getting started. Same thing with major chords. If you see a major 7th or a 6th chord or an add 9 and you don't know those chords, just play the major chord. If it says C6 and you don't know how to play C6, play a C major. You're going to be fine. Okay? The dominant chords, it's the same thing. You have what we call color chords, the 9 chord, the 11 chord, or the 13 chord. If you haven't learned the 13 chord, just play a 7 chord. It's going to be a perfectly good substitution. So you can use these simple versions, these fundamental versions of these chords, and you can play some fairly complicated songs just by plugging in the chords you know for the chords that you hopefully are going to learn soon. Okay? So hopefully that helps you out. Have fun, and I'll talk to you soon.